Who are you and what is your role?
Hello, my name's Pippa Bartolotti. I am Deputy Leader of the Wales Green Party and I'm standing as a parliamentary candidate for Newport West.
For those who don't know, what are the main policies of Green Party?
Well, we differ slightly from the Green Party in England. So in Wales, our main policies are concerned with the environment and equality, and everything that we are doing is wrapped around those two main green themes. I'll just say that a unique Green Party pledge that we're bringing to this election is the citizens' income, known in other circles as a universal basic income. This particular pledge is about equality. It's a great social empowerment pledge. We're facing increased automation. We're facing a low wage economy. We're facing 0 hours contracts. We're facing more and more people going to job centres being sanctioned. We're facing people having to spend thousands of hours of their lives going through meaningless jobs in order to avoid sanctions and going to meaningless interviews and so on. So let me tell you that the citizens' income is a basic income for all citizens, including children. It replaces all other allowances. It replaces all other benefits. It replaces job seekers' allowance. It would be priced at slightly over job seekers, so no one's going to get massively rich on it. This has been costed, by the way. And the idea behind this is that it empowers the individual to train, upskill, to start that business they always wanted to start, to stay at home with their kids for as long as they like. Like I said, no one's going to get rich on this, but it gives people choices. It's not a free ticket. It's about taking responsibility for your own lives and not having to go to a food bank, not crushing your desires and your ambitions because you have to go out and earn money. It's an empowerer for people and for our society, and I think the time has come now to give this a good airing. We would like to see a trial of this in Wales, and I would like to see this trial here in Newport. I think we have a microcosm of society in Newport, and I would like to see it trialled here. It's currently being trialled in Finland, and it has been trialled in other countries. So we need to gather more data about this. But it is not like a giveaway. You know, there's an education process that has to take part. The fact that even the very rich will get it is not a great concern because, of course, they get top sliced in tax anyway, so it comes back in. But a whole level of means testing and administration is removed, and there's many billions spent on that, as you probably know. And so we're not means testing, it's for everybody. I want to see us become a higher wage economy. I don't want to see the people of Wales and of the United Kingdom, the ones who can't get the right education, the ones who don't have friends in high places. I actually want to see these people have a better chance in life, and I want to start levelling the playing field, and the sooner we can get the Westminster government to give a go-ahead on a trial on this, the sooner we can start getting some feedback and structure it properly.
That sounds good. Other than that scheme, what else do you want to do for Newport if elected?
Well, what I want to do for Newport will be the same really for what I'd like to do everywhere else. I would like to change our voting system to proportional representation. I mean, democracy should be about one person having the honour to represent those around them. It should not be about safe seats. It should not be about jobs for the boys. It should not be about lost votes and apathy. Democracy should be vibrant and every vote should count. So working for proportional representation is very, very important for us. On other issues, we have to leave aside, of course, devolved issues here, like education and health, for example. But there are greater issues that we have to think about, like pollution. And that brings us to a transport debate. We need to clean up the air. We have worse and worse air quality, and we know we do, and children and babies are being born into ever deteriorating atmosphere of pollution and harmful substances, especially the very fine particulate matter that comes out of diesel engines and incinerators. So cleaning up the act is really important. I mean, the UK has been acting in defiance of European Union directives in terms of pollution. I mean, we over-pollute. We are a very bad example to the rest of the world in this sense. And so I think we need to clean up our act. Pollution doesn't know a boundary. You know, there's it's like climate change. There's no boundary. It doesn't stop at Dover or Milford Haven, or this stuff is going to ruin people's lives. We know something like 80,000 people a year die needlessly in Wales from pollution related illnesses, respiratory disease, heart disease. Then we have the asthmatics and all the other issues that are going with, you know, young people now in schools, where schools are by roadsides and etc. So cleaning up our act and getting pollution under control is major. We've got hotspots in Newport, we know we have. Killeen High Street, Malpas Road, they are all danger districts, and we need to sort this out.
You recently ran for local elections in Newport but didn't win a seat. What makes you think you can win a seat in Parliament?
As a matter of fact, I don't think I can win a seat in Parliament this time. But elections are not about, you know, very, very quick sprints, particularly if you're a Green. They're about embedding yourself in your community. They're about getting slightly more votes this time than last time, hopefully more than slightly more votes this time than last time. We are in a voting system where people are voting on out of fear more than hope, which marginalises us, and we know that. But we do believe that our message is important enough for us to continue to stand, for us to continue to say what's on our mind, in order to stop the very real hardships that will happen with climate change and with sea level rise, and to put in place the kind of equality across society that will help us to pay attention and do more to help ourselves.
Even though the Green Party continues not to win any seats each election, they still run. Would it be better for them to join another party or not to run at all?
Well, it'd be much better if other parties joined us, to be perfectly honest, because, you know, old politics only thinks as far as the next election. Green politics thinks about the next generation. And that's where we're at. That's why we can't stop. Because we are thinking for those who haven't got a voice, for those who haven't even been born yet. We're thinking ahead. We have a much wider mandate. And you've got to remember we're a movement. I don't know how many countries worldwide we're in, but we've got something like, I think 63, you'll have to double check this, MP equivalents in Germany. We've got 25 in Sweden, 15 in Finland. We've got Greens in practically every government. We've got very heavy Green Green presence in the New Zealand governments. But you know, you can go to Venezuela, to Brazil, go across South America, across Africa, across Europe. You'll find Greens in every single parliament. So why do we underperform here? Because of the voting system, and it's one of the reasons we need to change it. So if Greens are doing very, very well in other countries, it's because their voting system is more favourable than ours.
But does Green get a lot of votes at election time?
You mean the Green Party in?
And the Green Party in UK?
We get enough votes to have, if this was a truly proportional system, we'd have 14 MPs.
Right.
Okay. One of the questions I have is, the Green Party's policies on environment are very similar to Plaid Cymru's, so why should people vote for Greens when it's inherently a party for Westminster and not Wales? Also, why do you believe that the Green Party can do better than Plaid Cymru?
Well, under the present media coverage that we're getting, excluding good people such as yourselves at Newport City Radio, we haven't got a voice to put forward these things. So I'll tell you briefly. Let's take nuclear, for example, nuclear power. Currently, the utterly tragic situation in Manchester has had a knock-on effect, and we now have the military guarding the Sellafield reactor because it's a prime terrorist target, as all nuclear reactors are. Getting uranium smuggled out, I mean, uranium gets lost around the world quite a lot. I mean, the potential for a dirty bomb is very, very real. But these reactors are vulnerable, and nobody likes to imagine what would happen if one of those went out. Okay, so here we are in Wales with all the other political parties, including Plaid Cymru, who are very much in favour of another reactor at Wilfer on Ynys Môn, Wilfer B. And what happens if there's a terrorist alert? Do we shut down Anglesey? Does it become a military base? What is the point of having nuclear power? Have you noticed how many military personnel they've put around windmills? Well, exactly. There is benign, free, renewable energy available, which none of the other parties are pushing for as we are. And we need to ditch nuclear. It's going to be a liability. I mean, at the moment, we've got 2 reactors in Ynys Môn on Anglesey, which aren't even in operation at the moment. But they are still a huge liability because of all that spent uranium in them. And we have to be very, very careful about where we differ. And it's a prime motivator for Greens to get up and fight nuclear power.
Is it not for Plaid then?
No, they've come out totally in favour of a new reactor on Anglesey.
Do you think that the Green Party would consider a coalition with Plaid Cymru?
Green Party will always consider coalition because it's not really about politics, it's about life. We all have to make compromises in life. In order for our policies to carry through and to start getting some traction, we would work with people who share similar values. I think with every political party there is always going to be differences, but you've got to work through those and find the values that help you reach a healthier country, both economically as well as in terms of pollution, nuclear, and all these other things. So you have to find the balance, and we would work. We certainly would.
So, for example, with nuclear, do you think that the Green Party would compromise on allowing nuclear to happen, or do you believe that? I mean, if it did happen, do you think that maybe that would go against the reputation of the Green Party, saying that they don't want nuclear power?
Our members run our party, and they vote at conference twice a year on policy. Our members do not want nuclear. There is no compromise on nuclear.
Why do you think people will vote for you when the majority of South Wales, including Newport, have always voted Labour?
Well, now this is quite an interesting question, really, because when you say, I don't want to talk too much about another political party, but Labour is more than one party. 75% of the Parliamentary Labour Party are not supporters of Jeremy Corbyn, and certainly the council elections I did a massive amount of door knocking, and I think I only found one person who was prepared to vote for Jeremy Corbyn. The rest were anti in a big way, which is why Carwyn Jones has distanced himself from Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, it's a tricky old election in every way. Paul Flynn is standing in Newport West again. A lot of people have said to me it's time he stepped down, and I think it's rather worrying that the Labour Party in Newport haven't got another candidate to put up instead of him. I'm not knocking him in any way, as a matter of fact, but he is 86, and you'd think there'd be fresh young blood to move into Newport and start moving us along, to start bringing in the kind of businesses we want to see in Newport, to start bringing the kind of money we need to see in Newport, to start pandering to people like the Celtic Manor, and to start looking for new technologies and clean businesses. Start, set the ball rolling for decent rates reviews, to start actually physically and politically supporting this actual place, rather than just being a voice in Westminster that pops up every so often. Because I mean, to be an MP is an honour. you're representing people, and those people want you to do the very best for them that you possibly can, and that's a huge job of work and needs a lot of energy. It's not about towing party lines. Greens don't have a whip anyway, so we don't do that. It's about your locality. It's about bringing in jobs, bringing in businesses, bringing in prosperity, making it sustainable, harnessing the power of the place, whether that be in energy from the river or from the air or the sun, harnessing the power and empowering the people, you know, working for community energy schemes, bringing in the finance and the investment to help support community schemes so that people don't actually have their own power as in energy, but they actually have the intellectual power to own the place where they live. And I think, you know, these dreams and ambitions are all entirely possible. There's nothing pie in the sky about it. The sun's going to shine, the wind's going to blow, the tide's going to go up and down on the River Us forever. Well, let's say the next million years. You know, there's nothing stopping these things happening except political will. And this is why I so passionately would love to represent the people of Newport West, because I just feel there's so much I could do for this place. I've been in business all my life. I know how things work. I know how to finance economies. So we, you know, as an MP, it's not just voting every so often in the House of Commons. It's a two-way thing. It's about bringing back in here, having lots of public meetings, finding out how people feel on things before you vote. You know, it's a whole it's a whole interchange of ideas and people, and you know, to make democracy work, you've got to involve people all along the way, and that's how I would do it if I was an MP.
At the moment, the NHS is a big topic. If elected, what will you do concerning the NHS?
Dump privatisation. That would be the first thing. For every private enterprise, there is a profit element. We don't need to spare that kind of money. We need that money to be ploughed back into the NHS. We need to make, especially in Wales, nursing and medicine in general much more attractive to people. We need to find out why we haven't got enough nurses and doctors in Wales who are homegrown, if you like. We need to find out what these obstacles are. What's going wrong? Why are 24% of our nurses and doctors in Wales from somewhere else? There's something going wrong. As far as I can see, and I've read quite a lot around the subject, there's been no study. Nobody's asked the nurses what their barriers are. And I'll tell you what really galls me. The NHS pays to train all these people. And very often, after they've been trained and become qualified, they will go and work for agencies, which is another form of privatisation. There's another profit element in there. It costs £66 million a year on agencies for nurses in Wales alone. We need to stop this. This is a waste of money. We need to find out what is going wrong. Why are our trained nursing staff going to agencies and not staying within the NHS? Are the hours wrong? You know, is there not enough flexi time? Have they not got the freedoms that they need to have to bring up their families? There are so many questions that need to be answered. And I don't think any of it's rocket science. I think it could be put right, but the relentless drive to privatisation in England is filtering over the border. Lots of little parts of feed-in businesses to the NHS have been privatised, and it's making the NHS in Wales weaker. And we need to stand very, very strong and stop this completely, find out what's not working, and deal with it, invest in it, change it, whatever we need to do. I want to see 95% of nurses in Wales as Welsh nurses. I mean, what kind of ambition is that? That shouldn't be impossible, should it?
No. The unemployment rate in Wales is higher than the UK's as a whole, at 4.8%. If elected, what will you do to get people back into work?
Well, there are many issues related to that kind of percentage. A lot of it is geography, a lot of it is transportation, a lot of it, or some of it shall I say, is cultural. Do you know, in Blaen y Gwent, doctors give out something like 10,000 prescriptions a month for antidepressants. I find that completely insupportable. We need to know why. We need to know what's going wrong. And one of the things that really concerns me with the M4 proposal is that by the Welsh Government's own economic review papers for the M4, the Gwent valleys will be worse off if the M4 goes in. Now, the very people we should be supporting are people in the Gwent valleys and other valleys communities. We need really good public transport. If you build an M4, for example, who are you favouring? The already privileged, those who already have a car. And when I said these next words to the Chief Inspector at the Public Inquiry over at the Lycett Institute here the other day, they said it will favour the already privileged, it will favour those who have a car, and that is mostly white, male, middle class. And there was an audible intake of breath, and they took it as an insult. It wasn't an insult, it was a fact. And I think we have to look at this whole thing more deeply, and the fact that the Gwent valleys will be worse off. All road networks are not favouring those who need to get to work and haven't got transport. So let's make it possible for people to get to work. Let's not make them feel isolated. Let's give them a bit of hope. And you know, one of the issues with European money was not the money was great, it's the way it was spent. What's the point of an iconic building in Tredegar or Blaenau if you haven't got a job, you know? I mean, you might have had the construction job to build it and then it's all over. So there are big issues here, really important issues, and we need to look at what's going to happen to funding for Wales for a start. If we get our second referendum, which is quite an important part of a Green stance here, is that there were so many lies in the last campaign, I don't think anybody actually knows what they voted for anymore. So we need the detail, and you know, I need the detail, I'm sure everybody else does. What actually we're getting into, what actually are we getting out of? And if we get out of the EU, there's an enormous amount of funding that needs to come to Wales, which the UK government have not said they'll support. This is very, very important, because, you know, the money is not, as far as I'm concerned, it might as well have gone straight into people's pockets than to build those buildings. We need to get those communities up and working. We need the citizens' income to give them the kind of choices, so they don't have to take rubbish jobs, they don't have to have 0 hours contact with the tracks, they don't have to work in a slave economy. There's a lot we've got to do. And whilst I'm just on that subject, if you don't mind, there's a book called The Spirit Level, which if you've read it, you'll understand, and for everyone's listening, get it. It's been out a couple of years, it's really, really good. And in it explains more equal societies have less crime, have better education, recycle more. I mean, the list is really, really long. We have to be a more equal society if we are going to be a successful society. It's going the wrong way. Wales is less unequal than England, but it's still going the wrong way.
In terms of what?
In terms of favouring the already privileged. Right. In other words, people in Cardiff who've got, you know, very good public transport, they're already wealthy or privileged in some way, and I'm not saying they're millionaires, that's not what I mean, but you know, the idea of privilege is quite relative. We've got too many homeless in our cities, for example. We're not looking after people as we should. We don't need homeless people on our streets. We can deal with that. There aren't so many that we can't deal with it. I appreciate some of their issues are complex, but it's not beyond us to deal with them. We have to look at who we are. You know, you go out at night to the opera or the theatre or something, and you just get this raft of people who can afford to go, and the rest of them can't. That's really important. Everybody should be able to afford to go to, you know, great cultural events. And so this business of equality is really, really important. It's important for climate change, it's important for society, and with the citizens' income, we'll start to redress that balance. And for those communities that have been so disadvantaged for so long, particularly since the mines closed, where so much pride has been lost and nothing has replaced it, we have to work with them. We actually have to give them what they want, not impose stuff on them.
One of my questions, something you said, what would a second referendum do? Because Theresa May has already triggered Article 50, so what would a second referendum exactly accomplish?
Well, it will only accomplish something if we are properly informed as to the contents of the Brexit deal. Okay, properly informed. There are no lies, no spin. Now, how any government of today can actually deliver that, of course, is quite an open question. But we need to know about our human rights. I've had, in the last week, maybe 80, 90 constituency, Newport West constituency emails, no more. I've probably had double that on animal rights in one form or another. People are desperately worried that our animal husbandry and the rights of animals, including fox hunting, for example, people are desperately worried. I've never had such a big postbag on one subject as I have on animal rights this time round, and I've been doing this for a few years. The concern for the dumbing down of our standards is very great out there. I mean, animal rights is just one example, because frankly I don't think animal rights in this country are good enough as they stand. For them to get worse is almost unimaginable. And you guys probably already know that, but veganism is very much on the increase in this country. In the last 10 years, the number of vegans has grown by 360%, and that's mostly around young people. So there is great concern for animals, or an awakening, if you like, and leaving the European Union and their standards concerns everyone. Also, the kind of other standards we have, like clean air, which we're already flouting, should be a great worry. But not only that, I mean, one of the most important things for young people is this wonderful ability to live and to study and to work in other countries without barriers. I mean, what better education are you going to get? What better grounding for life than to work in several countries, albeit European countries? I'd like it to be more. I'd like Europe to be bigger, not smaller. So this ability to travel freely is something that we need to have a vote on as well. I think that when you've explored other countries and you come back and you start making comparisons, you are much better placed in this world for your whole life, for your work and for everything that you do. And the educational opportunities, the scientific opportunities through programs such as Erasmus, for example, to shut that off would be a crying shame, because science is so complex now. You need to pull all the brains of people from several countries to work on things like the Large Hadron Collider, for example. There are about 1,000 people working on that from all over Europe and probably the world. There's computer time bought from computers all over the world to process the information coming out of the collider. I mean, these things are what is going to make our lives work in the future. I mean, I love technology. I just want more of it. I think it's the most amazing thing. It's going to make our world cleaner. We can't rely on it because we've got to do stuff for ourselves. But in order to progress as a civilization, that's bunny ears I'm holding up there, civilization, we need science, and we need collaborative science to get the best out of it.
So, would the second referendum be to explicitly stay in the EU, or would it be to just the things that are assets of the EU?
It should be what the deal is. Whatever Theresa May and her bunch of clowns comes up with in terms of the exit deal, in terms of our human rights, our animal rights, our working time, our clean air, our scientific community, whatever deal has been done. Of course, we know nothing about that now, so nobody can comment at the moment because there's nothing to comment on. We need to know exactly what the terms of the deal are, and then we vote on whether we want that deal or not.
Okay. You mentioned equality. One of the things in the Green Party's policies was the The Green Party's policies on crime and justice seems to discriminate against men. Could you tell us why exactly the Green Party aims to lower the prison population of women and seemingly work towards giving certain women a get-out-of-jail-free card?
Okay, it's probably been a very long time since I've read that piece of policy. I would say we're not biased towards any gender, and let's remember we're not in a male-female society. We have, you know, we have many types of gender which we have to we should embrace, as other societies do. Do you know, in South America they have 4 genders. They have the male, the female, the male female, and the female male, and that is their society. It's completely open about, you know, there's room for everybody. So gender is, in terms of being an issue, isn't an issue for us because all are treated equally. In terms of lowering prison populations, well, if we come back to equality in a more equal society, having less crime and indeed less prisons, we have to look at that too. It is not a manifesto pledge, so I'm not really too worried about the detail of that. But we're not gender specific. We might have made a comment on the fact that the female prison population is growing and a lot of women are in prison for very, very small reasons. For example, possession of cannabis or something like that, which is not a big deal in terms of banging someone up for a few months or years.
Why not extend that to men though?
I think it is extended to men.
In the actual policy, it only talks about female imprisonment, not male.
That would be for the policy makers to decide. As far as I'm concerned, I think also, without having the actual policy in front of me, of course women do tend to be the main providers of care for families. So in fact, taking them out of the family situation can be detrimental for children as well. I'm not belittling any impact that fathers have on children here, but I mean the figures, the stats are very clear that women tend to be the main care providers, and therefore under those circumstances breaking up a family for a non-malignant crime is not the best of ideas. It's going to cause more problems down the line.
Okay. My last question is one we got from social media. How the Green Party supporting or plan to support and be a voice for the gay and bisexual men in Chechnya facing prison, physical abuse and torture for being themselves?
What's happening in Chechnya is just horrible. You know, it makes me shudder to think of what's happening. It's not just in Chechnya, it is happening in other countries as well. We can't physically go and do anything about it. We can support all the time. And in terms of social media, we certainly have come out against what is happening in Chechnya. Green Party is not evident in Chechnya, as far as I know. It's certainly not represented in Chechnya. And in fact, it's another of those minority groups that is clamped down on. So we ourselves are clamped down on in Chechnya. But this level of discrimination, you know, the gay community, the LGBT+ community, have been working so hard in every country. In Russia in particular, you may remember that Peter Tatchell got very, very badly beaten up when he went on a gay rights march in Russia a few years ago. He received a horrible brain injury from which he's never truly recovered. I mean, as one of our Green Party spokespeople, he's done incredible work. He's put himself in the front line. I think Greens as a political party worldwide have done all that they can do and will continue to raise alarm and concerns about what is happening in Chechnya. But we do know where there is absolute prejudice, it's incredibly difficult to overcome. I think America, Texas, the state for example, incredibly difficult. It took decades to overcome the discrimination. It took a generation to overcome the discrimination. And let's remember, Texas also has a very high death rate, in terms of capital punishment, and so changing these things is an intergenerational problem. In Chechnya, it has just taken off. It was always bad, but it's just become very, very bad, and my heart bleeds.
I have one more. On the topic of having a green future in Newport, one of the things that we spoke about before was about the M4 relief road project. Why do you believe it's not necessary when it could potentially lower hours of stagnant traffic causing more pollution to build up?
Well, there's kind of two parts to that. Let's talk about pollution, okay? There's no need for it. You can have clean energy driven electric cars like mine. Second-hand, they're quite affordable. Mine was second-hand. I've had it 3 years and delighted with it. What we haven't got is charging points. We haven't got a network of charging points across Wales. It's disgusting. I mean, I can go down the M4 and I can charge up in every motorway, what they call them, services. But the minute I go north or further west than Carmarthen, I'm in trouble, okay? And this is unforgivable. The M4 will actually, funnily enough, will cause more pollution, because the traffic will be taken ever quicker past Newport to Cardiff, and there's absolutely no work being done in Cardiff to take this extra traffic that the new M4 will call, to take it anywhere. So the bottleneck will just move down the road. The congestion, nobody likes congestion, will just move a little bit further down the road. It's going to be there. And in fact, having been through so many of the papers on the M4 inquiry, the study zone for pollution and congestion stops at Castleton. So on the A48M into Cardiff, for example, they haven't done any work on that. Now we all agree that if the traffic comes faster past Newport, all new roads encourage more traffic. It's called induced traffic, but it's got nowhere to go. So they'll all be ticking over in a queue down there, causing the pollution. It just won't be in the bring-glass tunnels.
So with the charging points, how much would it cost to create more in Wales, and should that be in the public sector or the private sector?
Well, I don't really mind, to be perfectly honest. Ecotricity have put in all the charging points in Wales. They're a clean electric company based in Stroud. They do 100% green gas and 100% green electricity. They put them in themselves, okay, because they've got a properly minded owner, essentially, who wants to encourage the use of green power. Obviously, it's his business, selling green power. So he's taken it by the horns. In London, where there must be thousands and thousands of electric charging points, I think there's a real mix. I mean, I've got one outside my own house, which came kind of with my car. So it's a fast charge outside my own house. The important thing about charging points is their accessibility and the fact that people don't hog them. It's very annoying when you're waiting to charge your car and somebody's left their car and gone off somewhere, and you're thinking, well, I want to charge my car and you need to move yours, so you need lots of them. Nothing that I've seen in terms of the M4 or anything else is alleviating this problem. Pollution is a scourge, it's a killer, and encouraging people by having more charging points, which are available, and with free charges, which mine are, has to be the way forward. And when you know the price of running an electric car, it's a no-brainer. It costs you nothing to charge it, no road tax, your MOT costs hardly anything, your service is under £100. I mean, it's just a no-brainer to have an electric car.
Well, you mentioned earlier that privatisation means there's profit involved. If it's a private company putting these points in, would it not eventually cost money for people? If everyone started...
it does depend on the business model, doesn't it? I mean, Dale Vince, who runs Ecotricity, has a particular business model. He wants lots more outlets for his green electricity, and so he sets them up himself. He's enterprising. He's a hippie entrepreneur. He's made himself millions. Good luck to him. I think the thing with him is that if you are already a household customer, you get free. And I think he's bringing now, if you're not a customer with your household bills, you know, you will pay a small amount. So, you know, the business models do change. They can be community charging points. I mean, if we've got community wind farms and sun farms, why can't we have community charging points? You know, why can't we keep the money in? So we harness the energy ourselves. We own that energy as a community. If we can get this set up in Newport, and then it's up to us how we sell that energy. But the important thing is we sell the energy, and the money stays in our community, doesn't go out to corporations left, right, and centre. Money staying in the community is worth 70% of all other money. I mean, you know, it's worth 70% more than all other money. Keeping it flowing in ourselves. You know, it's like having a Newport pound, which is only spendable within Newport. Brilliant idea. Penarth does it. Bristol does it. The mayor in Bristol's even asked to be paid in Bristol pounds. That's how good it is in Bristol. What are we doing here in Newport? None of that.
Is there anything you haven't mentioned already, just to finish off on, that you will do if you're elected?
No, there isn't a lot I can add. I mean, I think one of the major things that could come to Newport, which would be working at a Wales and UK level, would be a trial of the citizens' income. I mean, that would be a big thing to come to Newport. It would be, the world would be looking at us. It would be like the first tidal lagoon going into Swansea. You know, it would be a study, a model that everyone is going to look to see, because it's going to have to come. Are we going to let people starve, or are we going to look after them? That will be the choice. So let's look after them, and let's start the ball rolling here in Newport.